then w- walk through also the internship program and kind of what we'd look for in a candidate, if that makes sense. So I'll give you an overview on global, right? So as you might know, if any of you had a look before the webinar.
So yes, so we have really high interest here. We have almost 200 people in the room who are applying, who are all presumably interested in applying. It looks like you all will have 20 spots open. Are you splitting that evenly for 10 for the undergrad, 10 for the MBA, or you'll see, do you know?
So it's there are, I would say, a few guidelines on how we're going to do this, but nothing is set in stone. I think it's, first of all, the understanding is that the internship, one thing to understand is that the internship is our way to give back. And I think we want to give equal opportunity to both undergrads and postgrads. What you will find is that the undergrads might need it more. And then the skew is really dependent on, so for a bit of context, last year we had 19 interns from 12 different countries, sitting in 17 different countries, from Yale, Harvard, MIT, Rotterdam University, UCL, Said, and Sayad. And it was just a really great mix of people. It's hard to balance that out when you have 1,700 applicants and only 19, so it's a 1% hit rate. But I would say, look, let's start at 10 and 10. And in reality, what it becomes is we also are it's unsaid, but we want to, we're partial to people from the regions we invest in. I mean, we do want to, have someone from Europe or someone from America, but then we would rather have someone from the emerging markets like Nigeria, Cairo, Dubai, someone on the continent that we can upskill, someone that's female that we can upskill, because that's important for us as well, with gender balance. And so those things come into play later on. But first is just finding the best candidates, and then we kind of, shortlisted after that.
That's great. I'm going to ask people as a reminder to please put your questions in the Q&A. We have over 200 people in the room, so I can't keep track of them if they're not in the Q&A as well. So use that Q&A at the bottom, and please add them there. So we'll have some questions going. And as a reminder too, we will share the recording of this webinar from what's being recorded now. We'll have a link to the internship application and templates for resume and cover letters. So you said last year you received over 1,700 applications. So the competition is going to be really high for people who are interested in having this opportunity. And I love hearing more about the approach that you have of like investing in the upskilling and reskilling for people in the markets that you're serving, because that is such an important, well, of course, at Nexford, we certainly believe in that. And since it's like part of our core mission and vision. And it's really interesting to hear more about your background and what your day-to-day looks like. And when people take a look more in depth at the application, you will see, I think they will see rather, the thoughtful approach that you all have put into this internship and exposing people to the world of venture capital and experts who are in that space. So that's really an exciting opportunity. So I'd love to hear more, what you've moved from investment banking to private equity now into the venture capital side. So you have a really in-depth, you've had an in-depth overview of what all of these different sectors and industries and roles can look like. What do you think makes somebody especially good at working in venture capital? Or what has made you successful?
I wouldn't toot my own horn. I think I'm trying my best, but I think, look, it's one of a couple of things, right? I think one of the key things for venture that it can't be taught is passion. And I think I will try and extrapolate into explaining what the perfect intern looks like as well. I think, like I said, it's a very young team, very high quality output. I think the average age in the team is about 28, 29. Which is very rare for venture capital. It's usually top heavy and pretty skewed. And that's a function of you're always actually, your biggest competitor is yourself in this job role. So you have to wake up and really want the job. I feel like I'm an entrepreneur, but in a job role, because you're always trying to better yourself. So that passion is super important, because you have to have one, passion for the space that you're investing in, and passion for helping founders. Is the one piece that can't be taught, because I feel like the technical pieces, which is deal analysis and doing memos and, you know, making graphs and things like that, can always be taught. But if you're not passionate for it, it really does shine through. And with regards to the perfect intern, I think we usually look for people that can, you know, understand what we're doing, have a passion. They're not just looking at tech companies because they're trying to apply for a tech investment role. They are looking at tech companies because they really do love tech, but they don't know VC and they want to learn. And they've been following, you know, technology for a while. We had I think 3 entrepreneurs last time we had our internship. So they never done VC before. They'd never actually even done finance, but they were just entrepreneurs that had started their own tech companies and were interested in, you know, learning about VC. I think the JD is really not based on what you've done before, but what you're willing to learn and what you're willing to do. So it's pretty open. I would say, look, the bare minimum ability to, you know, use Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint would be very, very great. But we're mostly focused on the passion to actually learn and the ability to learn as well. I mean, you might be passionate to learn, but you have to learn quick, because in 6 weeks you will get through a lot of work, a lot of learning. And I would say, if I was an intern, I mean, I didn't get into global by internship. I was an experienced hire, but it would have been the best crash course in VC I would have gotten, that I have seen, at least since I started investing in the ecosystem.
Yes, this is a really unique opportunity. And I know I can tell that we have a lot of people who are really interested and that are putting some good questions forward. So I heard you say that people who have success in the venture capital space have a passion for tech and the types of businesses that you're investing in, have that entrepreneurial spirit, or maybe are entrepreneurs themselves, and have that ability to learn and passion for learning. And what I'm hearing within that is a lot of course, what we really find important within Nexford, which is really developing our critical thinking skills, problem solving, communication, the ability to ask questions and asking the right questions, which can be really challenging and hard to do.
Yeah.
So I have shared a link to the internship in the chat. People can also, you can look at the Global Ventures website. We will share this in the follow-up as well. So I encourage people to really take time when you're preparing. And this is a great overview. This is a really wonderful opportunity that we have to connect with Tito and this internship. And I want you to apply what we're talking about today to any internship or job that you're applying for, and the thought and care that you're putting into your application materials. And thank you to everybody who is putting the questions in the Q&A so that I can follow them there. So moving ahead, it looks like from the website, it says 8 weeks, but are you saying 6? Is it 8, do you think?
So it is going to be 1 or 2 weeks of training,
Okay.
and then 6 weeks in trenches, basically.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
So 1 week, and I think I saw a question about, like, if you had no finance background, there will be some trainings into, things like deal sourcing, deal origination, how to screen a deal, financial modeling, those kind of things. And there'll be a crash course on that right before we won't throw you into the woods without a flashlight, basically. But really the job is really learning on your feet, because it's not as, I would say, what's the word? Then it's a bit open in the sense that you really do VC. There are standards and standards of procedure, but then a lot of the pieces of this is actually going out and being hungry to learn. And you find the best deals by being hungry to learn about a sector that is emergent, right? So if I picked, I don't know, OpenAI, or I don't know, Web3, you find the best deals by going out, doing research on that sector, using things in that sector, and then finding a founder in that sector and then investing in them. So that you can't really learn on an internship. You have to have that hunger by yourself to find a new deal and find a new sector and find emerging investment opportunities.
That's great. Okay, so really being someone who's proactive is what I'm hearing, and really can, you see something that you don't know about, and these emerging technologies, a lot of people are learning as they see the TechCrunch articles posted about them, and then being willing to go out and try out whatever it is they're learning about themselves to better understand that market. We have so many questions that are coming in, so I think I'll hop over. But I wanted to Q&A. I think we'll get there in just a moment. I want to spend a little bit of time just doing a brief overview and talking about application materials. And while I do that, if people want to continue to add in your thoughtful questions in the Q&A, we welcome that. So it looks like from the application page, you all are using an applicant tracking system for people to upload their resume or CV and a LinkedIn URL. And then there are some brief questions, and then a brief demographic questions, and then some short answer questions for people to fill out. Yeah, so I'm sure in your work that you have looked at lots of application materials. Could you just give us some broad strokes about some advice that you would give people who are applying for an internship or any job about their career materials and how to make sure that they really look great?
Oh, wow. I have unfortunately been applying to, so the thing about applying to jobs, and I've learned this an incredibly hard way, is that there's every single, I would say, job application is completely different. I think when I was applying for investment banking in London, I had 180 companies. I had a spreadsheet where I would, have every single company and a yes or no and the stage, and then the nuances of that exact company. I think one thing that's unsaid is a couple of things, right? And this is now personal advice, has nothing to do with global ventures, but I think you do a job for time, value, and money. And that's the holy trinity for me, right? And really, some people want to earn a lot. Some people want to have time or not have time. It depends on you. And some people want to get value. And then how you balance those things out, the value you're getting, how much you're getting paid, and how much time you have to do, work-life balance, I guess, is really up to you. I think you have to be really conversant of this when you're applying for a job. I would say there are places where it's, rigid and there's a way to apply, and you have to say this, and you have to use these buzzwords, and, lead a team or spearheaded and use these buzzwords. And if you want to work for that kind of place, do the research. I think it's really just do the research, right? Make an effort to look at deals that the company you're applying to has done, or the kind of business they're in, what's exciting for them. They put out, most companies that would be big would put out, they would have a news page or a blog page or some sort of thing. Take time to look at it. I mean, it takes, 15, 20 minutes to go on a blog page. So you kind of understand where you're going to be working with, who you're going to be working with, and what they believe in. So that when you're sat on an interview, and especially with us, I've seen applications where someone is saying, hey, I really like your investment in this company when we didn't invest in them, which means that you didn't take the time to go on our website and see our portfolio companies, if that makes sense, right? So just being a bit more deliberate could really change, make a difference. And also making sure that it's a cultural fit for you is something that's really, really unsaid, in the sense that, based on your personality, you can kind of tell from how the application process goes or how an interview goes, if this is the kind of place you want to work at. And really, I've said already that I don't think I work, because work would mean that I wake up in the morning and I don't want to do it, in my opinion. And I don't call it a work-life balance. I just call it a life balance, because work should be part of your life. And once you have to segment work from life, then it becomes a chore. So it's really do you want to take that, you want to suffer early and, work early and then kind of transition into something that you prefer to do? Is the real question, right? But be very, very deliberate and understand what you're getting yourself into is super important for me. And I think that deliberacy is, I would say, what then dictates how you apply and what you would know how to apply to each job if you're deliberate about understanding what they do look for in an applicant and what is important for them. And lastly, but not the least, that deliberacy also dictates, places that have case studies or things of that nature, making an effort to just learn how to answer them and how they would usually come out. and making an effort to, you know, spend a month or whatever doing different case studies and replying them and doing testing is important, because it will make a difference if you don't know what's going on at interview stage.
So for the interview for the internship, or is that for formal jobs, or are you talking about?
This is formal jobs.
Yeah, okay.
I can't really answer for us, because we, by nature, VC is extremely informal.
Right.
Because anything formal would mean lower returns. And the reason why VC is informal is because if you invest in informal companies, you can make the highest returns. So by definition, it's slightly more informal. I'm just giving general advice, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the case studies, will there be a case study component for the internship application and interview?
So the process of the internship is, first of all, there's the screening of the CVs where, you know, I think probably, I don't know, 25% cut off. And then there's a case study, there's a first interview where we curb another few, probably 50%. And then there's the case study interview, which is, you know, a short investment memo. By the way, just for context, this is going to be an investment role, but you're going to do a couple of other things at the firm. But this is principally, the whole point is to teach how to be a venture capitalist as both an investor and do everything else as like, so investing and supporting portfolio companies that you've invested in. So principally, if you wanted to join a team that isn't investment, this is probably not the best for you, in my opinion, because you might be doing things you don't want to. But yeah, this is for an investment role. Anyway, so the case study will be just doing an investment memorandum on a company that would be brief. It's going to be a random company. We'll provide some information for you. There'll be a lot of information that's public, and you'd prepare, I don't know, a 10-page investment memorandum that just details that company and what they do, company information, market, etc., etc.
More what process this is for internship opportunities. So I want to also take this opportunity to remind our Nexford learners and alumni who are here and who are listening to the recording, how, as a follow-up, again, our resume template and cover letter. But these materials are not only a reflection of you as you're applying, but also, of course, of Nexford University. And so think about that when you are reviewing your materials, ensuring there aren't any typos, making sure that you have brought out as much as possible how your previous experience aligns with this specific role. The job description for these roles, which we have shared in the chat, have a lot of detail about what they're looking for in terms of the skills, what your profile looks like. And Tito has just shared, you know, more around what a successful person in the venture capital space has in terms of their background and their appetite for learning. So keep that in mind. And I really like how Tito was sharing that to put yourself ahead above the rest, or you know, to stand out from other candidates. Sometimes it really is a matter of spending, like he said, 30 minutes and taking your time to look at the social media profiles of the companies that you're applying to. Look, and Global Ventures is, of course, excellent at doing this. Look at their Twitter feed, look at what they're putting on LinkedIn. Spend another 30 minutes really going through the website, because there is so much information out there. And then you would get into an interview with many people and they'll say, oh yeah, I didn't know what companies you'd invested in, or even getting into who some of the founders are, reading some of those TechCrunch profiles that have come out about the companies they've invested in. Now, this is specifically for Global Ventures, but I want to make sure you all are thinking about this in the context of other jobs and internships that you're applying for. Do you know, getting into some of the questions, is this a paid internship?
No, it's not going to be paid.
Okay, so it's an unpaid internship.
Completely unpaid, and completely remote. I think the whole point, and it's super early, so the whole point is to immerse people in VC experience. And then most of our cohort, what they did is that they had actual internships from August. So actual, more global analyst program at here XXX, or full-time roles that were starting in either August or September, because usually after summer people join full-time roles. So what this was, hey, a free crash course in VC whilst I'm on summer holiday. Probably won't take up like an incredible amount of your time. I mean, you're talking 4 or 5 hours a day. So it's pretty easy to learn and immerse whilst, being on, just having graduated and being on a summer holiday, basically.
Okay, so you anticipate people would spend so there would be 1 to 2 weeks of training, 6 weeks of the internship itself, and that people would be dedicating between 4 to 5 hours in the internship. And really to encourage people to think about this as, an investment in their professional development and career. And because you will, there will be a lot of skills and training that's happening throughout.
Yeah, and I mean, like all that information we'll share with the cohort, and I mean, you get the packs, and you mean you have them forever. But also I think it's very rare to be able to have that view into a pretty successful regional investment firm here, because I think sometimes it becomes a bit of a dark box in the sense that you don't really know what's going on. You hear, oh, Paystack raise or Flutterwave or all these unicorns, and it's really, how do these investors think? How does it look like when I work there, and that sort of thing. So it's really just helping do that and to demystify our sector.
That's great. You'd mentioned, and we just had another question, and I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. So does someone need a background in finance to be successful for the internship?
No, I think last year we had economists, we had legal professionals, we had entrepreneurs. I don't think a background in finance helps one piece. It helps you be able to quickly financial analyze, but it doesn't help a lot of the other things, which are more networking, empathy, passion, and all the other things. So I think it's a lot. The cocktail to make a great VC investor is not one prong. So you don't need a finance background. You need some proficiency in numbers, as obviously would make sense. But you don't need a finance background.
That's great. Thank you. And you've already talked through some of the criteria for selecting people. So that's one of the questions, but that was asked before. I think you answered that. So that's great. And you've just gone over that again. And you mentioned, so yes, okay, we've got this one answered. So someone here is just confirming that they're currently enrolled in a program, a certificate program at Nexford, and an undergraduate student in Nigeria. Are they eligible to apply? My assumption is yes. This is open.
Anybody, even if you lived in Mars, we would love someone that wasn't on Earth. Anyone is eligible to apply.
Yeah. Anybody. Nexford will be launching their intergalactic marketing strategy soon, not yet. So yes, these are open to everyone, and please take the time to look at those the job descriptions, because there's one for undergraduate and there's one for MBA. So make sure that you all are really being thoughtful and reading through those carefully to see the requirements for each of those. So yes, anyone is eligible to apply. And then you went through that great step-by-step process for what the application experience is going to be like, of the screening of the CVs, where about 25% are checked out because they probably seem totally irrelevant to the internship itself. The next is the first interview, where another 50%, and then you have that case study. And I'd also want to remind everybody on the call, you have access as an certainly for our enrolled learners to LinkedIn Learning. And Angelo, thank you for sharing that. You might be sharing just for one of them. So I'm going to share in the chat so people have the correct information. There are 2 applications. There's one for undergraduate and there's one for MBA, but you have access to LinkedIn Learning. So when you're wondering what a case study is, how to write an investment memo, how to prepare for different interviews, your LinkedIn Learning will have information on all of those areas, and many of them within. So we have So we have the selection process there. This question is, does this internship help people secure jobs in the venture capital space? And do you have any insight onto where your interns from last year are now?
Yeah, actually. So does it help? I'm 100% sure it would. If you went from not knowing about venture capital to doing this internship, you would definitely be landing a job much easier. So a lot of our interns, I'm going to check the data. A lot of our interns did eventually join VC firms. Some of them actually joined startups. So I would say if I had to do an even split, I probably don't know where half of them are. Half of them either joined VC firms here, or a lot of them joined Europe, in EMEA, so UAE, and they joined different firms. We had, out of the 20 or 19 that interns, 3 of them actually joined our team. And then a few of them joined startups. So some of them are at Amazon, some of them are at Meta. They actually joined not startups, I guess. Amazon is not a startup, but they joined tech companies at the end. So yeah,
that's great. And yes, we have, so people can apply. This is an internship. So this is an opportunity. One of the questions around, if I'm still learning some of the tech, IT, and financial analysis, this is the opportunity where you'll be learning, and you're going to need to show in your application materials why this venture capital internship with Global Ventures is relevant to your career and your interests, and of course, Global Ventures and their work. So that is going to, the responsibility will be on you as the applicant and applicants to let them know why, even if you don't have necessarily a specific background. Like Tito said, venture capital is, it can be pretty informal with the skill sets and the backgrounds that people are bringing. And there's still a responsibility to show why you are interested and a relevant candidate. So next we have, so we have questions here, I think that we've already answered. So this is, people are just excited. We already have how many hours. And I think that these have all been answered. And if they have, yes, let's see. So someone has, and it sounds like too, you'd mentioned that this is quite a young team, which is not necessarily typical in the venture capital space. We have some people who have more years of experience. So they have 10 plus. Are they eligible to apply, or is this going to be more focused on early career?
No, it's completely agnostic. This is not focused on age. It's not focused on professional experience. It's not focused on academic experience. It's focused on wanting to learn about VC and the ability to learn, right? I would say the real reasons you wouldn't get this is, 1, you don't really want to learn, or 2, you actually can't learn, right? I think having the passion to learn about VC, being able to put out, proficient output, and having the ability to learn on the job is probably the top 3 things that are not, I would say, written in stone, that you would need to do this. I mean, you could be, we don't even mind if you're 50 years old and you wanted to join this. You just can't as a postgrad, right? It's giving back at the end of the day.
Great, very exciting. We have gone through a lot of questions. If people still have them, and that you're putting them in the Q&A, that would be great. And like Tito has said now many times, all experience, all backgrounds. And again, the way that you're presenting yourself, you think about the materials that you're putting forth for an internship, for a job application, all that many of these people have, the hiring managers and recruiters have to look at, are what you are submitting in your application. So really taking the time to be thoughtful with how you're formatting your resume or your CV, what you're putting in. I don't know actually that this one even has a space for a cover letter, but you will have those short answer questions. So being thoughtful, they're only 150 to 200 words, but making sure you're impactful with your answers and that you're taking the time to, again, like Tito said, do your research and be deliberate. He's giving us golden gems for use, just rather gems, all gems, rubies, emeralds, to implement and put into place for all applications. So I think it sounds like, we're having questions that are the short answer questions more important than the resume or other elements, but I would assume that they all have a not necessarily equal, but they're all important to the application itself. Is that right, Tito? Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, great. So I think we have covered again. And as a reminder to everyone, we will share the recording of this question and answer session with Tito. We'll share links to both the undergrad and the graduate application. And we will include templates that you can adapt with your experience for a venture capital internship role. Tito, is there anything else that you want to share with our captive audience?
Hey, no, it's just really great to be here and to speak to the Nexford cohort as both an investor and I would say someone that's hoping that, one or two of the interns get to join the team and see what it's like on this side of the table. So thanks for having me.
Oh, yes.
It's a lot of people.
This is rare. Actually, this is our highest proportionally, I think, internal webinar. This is just for our Nexford learners and alumni. And I am saying that because I want to make sure our Nexford community knows that we are hearing your feedback and your what you're sharing of you want more remote opportunities, global remote opportunities. And we are sharing those just with our Nexford community. So we will have more webinars like this that you can look forward to. Please look out for the follow-up email that we'll have. And again, with all of those great links that I referenced. My name is Jennifer Bongora, Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. We are so excited to have had everyone here and are really looking forward to having a Nexford learner or alumni in the Global Ventures internship program this summer. So thank you, Tito, and thank you to everyone who has joined. Have a good rest of your day.